say that's one of the most challenging things is embracing our greatness, allowing ourselves that we have this ability to know stuff, and we have this being a masterpiece. We have this ability that whatever we hold in mind, we manifest.
Oh, this is major. It's like the next big thing. Come catch the wave, yeah. Yeah, watch what's happening. A force of nature. Hit 'em like lightning. Be the creator of the next big thing. We're the movers and shakers. We are the dreamers, the makers. We stand on top of equators. We are the limitless. We got the future, no papers. We are the innovators. We have the focus like lasers. You know
Greetings and welcome to the Compromised to Alchemized podcast. I'm here,
this is
Santa Barbara, and I've just had some exciting events happen. So I'm going to share about those. I'm going to share about what's coming up. But first, I want to make sure I say that this is quite an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with the guest, George Mumford. He doesn't really need an introduction. I feel like a lot of people I interview, I say this for. So he is yet another one who has quite a reputation of excellence, and his area of focus has been mindfulness. He's also known as the performance whisperer. He's also known as the meditation expert who helped Phil Jackson with his championship teams, including the Bulls, the Lakers. And George is quite remarkable. I mean, he's helped establish inner city programs. He's helped so many people with not just mindfulness and meditation, but he says this phrase, and it's part of his charter. It's part of his personal legend. So I'll mention it. Is one of his purposes is to unlock the divine spark within, and there's a lot more to that. And the way he does it, it's very unique. And we talk a lot about intuition. We talk a lot about the divine. We talk a lot about the empathic field. We talk about different ways we both can unlock that or flourish in that, and then times when we don't have that as people. And he shares from his past of overcoming struggle and addiction. And I think many know his story. Many know how he was Dr. Julius Irving's roommate, and then he kind of, through injury and struggles, he didn't George didn't have his career go off in athletics as he might have thought. But everything in his case and everything in his story has come to serve his heart and mission to help so many people. So I feel very thankful that we had this chat. I really enjoyed the back and forth. I really enjoyed hearing his insight. So I know you will. You're going to love it. So please listen. If you know anybody that's, struggled with depression, please share this with them. Or on the flip side, if you know anybody who's just really interested in more methods of mindfulness, we talk about some of the ways we both have found, different routes in to that place. So he has so much in his repertoire in terms of what can you learn. I mean, his website, georgemumford.com, he's got a community, he's got the Mindful Athlete course, he's got this quick hitters app that you can learn in these different lessons and engage in practices. He has written the Unlocked book, and it's about this idea that everyone has a masterpiece inside just waiting to be unlocked. So thanks to Tim Anderson on the original podcast. That's how I came to be in touch with George in terms of his most recent interview, or one of them. It was listening to his interview on Tim's. Then I went and I listened to ones more recently as well. But I really am so thankful that I was able to have this conversation with him. So tune in. I really can't wait to see what you think. But I want to mention too that I just had an amazing group of practitioners out here in my office, and I taught the floor form, which is my proprietary technique system of what can unlock the floor of your mouth. And the question is why? Because not just for that tongue to have ideal resting posture on the roof of the mouth, and not just for optimizing breathing or for babies feeding as well, not just for freeing up TMJ pain and disorder issues, and not just for preparing for tongue tie releases or postoperatively or palate expansion or any other things like that. I mean, those are good reasons, but the fluorophore frees up the floor of the mouth via these four main areas. And when someone learns to do this, you find these ways to get access to helping someone where their body becomes supple. And then so many areas in the body, from the bones of the head and the face, the torso, the different areas in the pelvis, the hips, the ankles, down to the toes, can free up and elasticize. So it's this chain reaction, this cascade effect, this domino effect. The lips, the cheeks, the palate, the craniofacial structure shifts and elasticizes and becomes more supple. And you have this flow that happens all the way down. It's called a phase shift. That's what I call it. And when someone's in phase shift, they are far more likely to be supple, resilient, and handle situations as they arise, whether they're physically or emotionally stressful situations. And that's the perceptual change. It leads you to this different state of being where you can go into this place and handle things. So I encourage anybody to come to Santa Barbara the next time I do this training. If you are anybody who works with people, you could be a myofunctional therapist who doesn't work hands-on and you're more guiding people. You could be a lactation consultant, you are working hands-on. You could be body workers, massage therapists, physical therapists, chiropractors, osteopaths. You could be rolfers. You could be craniosacral therapists, craniosacral fascial therapists. There's many other kinds of body work to mention. You could also be a dentist, like one who came out who also does myofunctional therapy and buccal massage. You could. So I had such a blast. I mean, yeah, from my locals here in Santa Barbara, Lindy and Ashley, they rocked out, to having Alon from the Bay Area, to having Stacy and Shalom repeat students come back, and they stayed on like Jeannie did from Vegas to take the advanced course, and we went deep. I've never taught my advanced course before, and I came out of it thankful, thrilled, and amazed what these people learned, the way their hands increased in capacity, but what they already knew was great. And now I'm so excited because I'm finally at that place where I can relay the greater extent of my work. So I'm really excited already to be preparing for the fall when I have another course. And so my tracks on Newcom are getting ready to come out soon. So if you don't know what Newcom is, NUCALM, check it out. Really just thrilled, really excited. So I'll update more, but I hope you enjoy this episode and are really in a place to take it and see what you do with it.
This is major.
All right, I'm here with you, George Mumford, which is a privilege and a pleasure. And I'm really excited to delve in and just talk so many topics with you from your realm of expertise as you journeyed in life with so many different people, with so many different paradigms. So thanks for being here with me, first of all, George.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, well, we were just talking a little bit about some of our shared um, understanding chiropractic and how that's been a value for you, which I don't want to jump in and start with that, but I think we were also talking about be like water. And I've heard your Georgisms. These are so good. I feel like I've had some of my Neil-isms, but be like water is such a good one. I was just with somebody came in. We're working with frequencies and sound on a project, but he was in and he was trying to understand his body, and he was trying to get like the different parts of anatomy we're working with, because I do like 3 hour sessions and delving in. And I said, yeah, all that's good, but we're working with fluidity. He's like, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everybody understands fluidity, right?
Yes, yes, it's fluid, but that's life is a river. It's flowing, it doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Bruce Lee, that's where I got to be like water. That's where I got that from. That makes sense. But also being like water is like understanding that there's a possibility that you can be in flow a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what flow is about. Flow is about it's like water. You yield to whatever, but you just move with it. Yeah, it's improvisation and emotion. Yeah, I just said that. Pretty cool. I like that.
I like it. I like it. It's poetry. You're a poet. I've heard that. So
Yeah,
I know Performance Whisper is a really awesome like title I see in your newest book, which is, I think it's called Unlocked, right? I
unlocked.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that because, in fact, the same person who was in here when I was talking about fluidity, I was talking about being unlocked. And I said, yeah, we're going to unlock this area, which
Yeah.
frees up the dam that's been blocking the potential that you have. So I feel like when I've heard you on these podcasts and I know some of the work that you've done, it's just like a great unlocking. And it seems like you go about it in so many different ways. It's not like a formula, it's like a template. And you just look for where, like, you're just present in the moment and to see where is there a lock that needs to be unlocked. Is that kind of how you see some of what you do?
Yes, Marcus Aurelius. What's in the way becomes the way.
Mm, yeah.
So I say that, and I have to be careful what I say it around because sometimes when I'm giving a presentation or keynote or something, people ask me, "Well, George, what are you going to do?" And the honest answer is, I don't know, but it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So, because I have a well thought out plan, but then you just got to be with what is. You got to be you got to meet things where they are, meet people where they are, and then go from there. And neuro linguistic programming, they call it leading and pacing.
Mm,
You meet the person, and then
yeah.
then you can lead them or help them, but it's not like you're leading them in your direction. You're leading them from the inside out of their own process.
Yeah. Well, and that's like a good, it's you're going to be talking here to, or a lot of people tune in that are from a broad range. They could be parents who are, journeying with their kids through nervous system dysregulation and they're looking for keys on that. They could be high performance athletes who are biohackers who want to learn more about pushing past limitations and into the potential that they are, or they're, people with tongue ties, because I'm an expert of the floor of the mouth and helping people with tension there, that's whole body, so they can have better, not just speech and breathing, but digestion. But I think a lot of this for me sums up catharsis and change and not being stuck. So
Yeah, just freeing up the dam or allowing things to flow. And to me, that's the interesting thing is energy thing that E equals MC squared. Everything's about energy. And if the energy gets blocked or locked, then it's not flowing. And there's usually some consequence to that, some kind of buildup or illness that comes out of that. And so when you really think about process, or just when I talk about unlocking the masterpiece within or embracing
mhm.
greatness, what I'm really talking about, I'm doing a Michelangelo.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
He said, "All I do is chip away to get to the masterpiece that's already there." Now, the interesting thing is, it's an inside out. It's like a chrysalis thing. Each person has to do it, and my
Hmm.
job is to guide them and to share with them my experience, strength, and hope, and how I've done it, and how what makes sense for them given who they are and where they are.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean, there's I've used that quote from Michelangelo the Understanding, but it resonates because for me too, when I was like 16, I grew up in chaos and all kinds of things. I barely said words aloud. And so when I started singing in the choir and the 16 years old and joined the choir, and then I ended up doing musicals, it was the great unlocking
of my
Yes.
being and the great integration tool that I didn't even know about what it was. So I think some people, they might be looking for that. Maybe they found it and they, wanted to rediscover it. But it's like, wow, sound, expression,
Yeah.
sometimes we just need to let out because that kind of drills through that, to use that analogy, that concrete exterior that life maybe brings to us or we maybe take on. But I love how you express that, when you speak about yourself and also the wisdom you've learned is like we look at things as what they are, but everything is an opportunity to transcend. We have the ability to
That's right.
perceptually change and grow through and not get stuck by things.
Yes, yes. So it's interesting because a lot of times, like I wrote the Mind for Athlete over 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and I talk about the masterpiece. And what I was really talking about is the idea that we have Buddha nature, Christ consciousness, divine spark, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
And that our job is to release it, unlock it, and share it with the rest of us.
Hmm.
But it's an inside out job. It's not something that someone can do for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's almost like a healing and everything. Just get everything out of the way and let the body do what it does. Or let it, the healing would come and there's a blockage there, but that blockage is also an opportunity.
Hmm.
Exactly, the release. And as a matter of fact, if you think about Hans Selye, the guy that talked about the stress of life and whatnot, he says that when we get into these challenges, that's when our latent abilities are able to express themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I was, meditating on something that you said even recently that I listened to, one School of Greatness, Lewis Holmes, and I loved how you delved deep into because I listened to your interview on the Tim Ferriss, podcast too, but on his you delved deeper into this topic of you ended it by intuition, but you were diving deeper in how these empathic kind of senses come to you because I resonate with that with my practice and what I do. And
Mhm.
I loved how you were, it was kind of like you were taking us on a journey of the anatomy of intuition, how you see things come to you. And so a lot of people come to me and they say, I love how you delve in intuitively. And I'm like, well, there is no other way. But intuition
Right.
is kind of like an end facing or outward facing word that tries to sum up this beautiful metaphysical mystical thing that is we are antennae and we hold what comes because we know we are to serve others or carry it for the purpose of helping ourselves and others. So I would love to just delve in for a couple minutes into more on that and how you developed that ability or you fostered that ability or you grew it into what it is now. Because a lot of people ask me, like, Neil, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, if I look back, I see when I was young what I was doing to fan that flame without even knowing it. And then very differently in the last couple decades I've been consciously growing that to help be there more for others so I can serve. So for you, where did that start or how did you how do you look back at that?
It's interesting because there's a couple of Georgisms there, but they come from from the scripture. Be still and know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. And then the
Mhm.
Georgisms that came out of that uh, is this idea of be still to know and be still until you know.
I like that. Oh, I love that. Very practical. Very,
Yes,
very profound.
because there's a still small voice that's inside of us that's easily drowned out. And the more we drown it out, the more it's silenced.
Mhm.
So when you talked about seeing and whatnot, what came to me was you found your voice,
Yeah.
even though mine's got hoarse just there. Interesting. But so it's this idea of understanding that silence and stillness is just getting with yourself, being with yourself, and listening to yourself. And I've had little inklings of it. Like I remember when I went into the detox, there was a voice that said, George, that the same George that goes in there comes out. We got a problem.
Yep. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it was something that said to me, I need to be intellectually stimulated. Now I see it as, pursuing excellence and wisdom with grace and ease, uh, for the highest good, and I keep adding to it, right? Because
Uh-huh.
life is like an edit. You keep editing it because we're not fixed points. We're ever changing events.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that. I think it was Buttersworth. It might have been Buttersworth, Maya Angelou's teacher, Eric Butterworth. He said that. I think he's the one that said it. But that's the thing, is that everything's flowing, things are flowing, and how do we get in touch with that flow and this idea of the reality is there's a quiet place in us. There's a stillness, there's a silence. I call it the eye of a hurricane. You can call
Mm-hmm.
it a masterpiece, whatever. But there's a connection, and I guess if you think about it, it's this connection to the Akashic records. That
Mm-hmm.
there's a way, and Edgar Cayce used to access that, and because he accessed it, he could do readings, and he was way ahead of his time in terms of holistic health and just helping people have remedies when something was wrong with them. And you just give them the address, he'd tell you who they are and what they need to do. And he was tapping into that I would say worldwide web, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
database of consciousness is what Dr. Hawkins calls it. But there's a accessing that. And so when we're coming out of the stillness and silence, there's a creativity and a wisdom that we access that's beyond all human description. And people talk about it a lot when they're in the zone or in the flow, when they're going with the flow of life. There's You just know stuff. It's like an intuition is like when I talk about wisdom, and I borrowed it from obvious other people, but my perception of wisdom is it's a combination of information, intellect, and intuition or direct experience.
Mm.
And so the idea of the practice, the idea of what I'm offering, I want people to have a direct experience of what the teaching is. Then it's deeper. Then it's
Mhm.
something, and you may not understand it in terms of being able to communicate it, because some things are beyond human description. You can't really put them in words. It's like if I say to you, explain to me how you were able to ride a bike.
Mhm.
That's what they call non-declarative or implicit learning. You don't even know you have it until it shows up at some future time. So you learn how to ride a bike. It's hard to describe what that is, but once you learn how to ride a bike, you always know how to ride a bike.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's a whole part of our experience that's in that realm where you don't know. And I remember when I was in high school, I guess, and I was attending this program in the summer, and I was playing one on one with this basketball player who I just saw in we used to call them the tech tournaments. In March, you'd have all of the schools, Division A, B, C, and D would play for the championship, and this kid he played for this particular suburb Needham, and we were playing one on one, and he said to me, "Hey man, you dribble without looking at the ball," and I never knew I did that.
Mm. Mhm.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So how many things that we can't claim but show up because of some work we did in the past?
Mhm.
And so it becomes automatic, it becomes automatized, and we're just in the moment, and we're just allowing the body to do what it does.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
No,
it's
it's just
it's
absolutely.
it's challenging to talk about, but I know if you can be with yourself and be still and just be open to things and just be in that space of being vulnerable, being willing to allow things to speak to you
Mhm.
in its own language without us seeing something and then trying to interpret, but giving that perceptual process more breath and space to really let things speak to us in its own language. And that's the thing, we can keep looking at things, reflecting on things, and each time you reflect on it, you get something else. Now I wrote the Mindful Athlete, but I lost count. I think I've read it over 61 times,
Mm.
60 times.
Wow.
And just like the books that I first started reading when I got into this process in 1984, like The Road Less Traveled, I read it and I keep rereading it, and it's like, okay, so where did this come from? I never saw this before.
Mhm. Yeah.
You get, because that's what life is, to meditate, reflect, True understanding comes from reflecting on experience. And so when I'm looking at it now, I'm a different person and I have a different agenda that's guiding me. So obviously I'm gonna go when I go look at it, there's my brain's always my mind's been processed to look for this because it's been primed to see this thing and not primed to see something else. And what I mean by primed, I mean it's been conditioned. It makes it actually is like it's well prime the prime is the line, right? I'm saying it again. And so you prime to align. When you align with the way things are, when you align with the divine, everything is fine right on time.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
So
You're in
so
the
that's
flow.
my Georgism. So
Oh,
yeah. So if it's love,
mhm.
then it's going to have a certain alignment. If it's fear, it's going to have a certain alignment. And so if we can just get into that vibe of how things are, and then honestly expressing ourselves, like when you were singing, that's the whole thing. It's really like Bruce Lee. I'm going to Bruce Lee again.
Yeah.
Class is to honestly express yourself. So it's hard to do. Well, I would say, let me change that. It's challenging to do.
Mhm.
So even when I say it's hard to do, I'm creating a reality. But if I say
Right.
it's challenging,
Mhm.
it's an opportunity. Now that puts me in growth mode, and that puts me into inquiry, continuous inquiry. Well, how do you do this? Oh, and to ask the question is to know the answer. This is what Alan Watts says. So one side of this is the question, but the answer is there. You just have to be still and know, or be still till you know, and
Yeah.
then you get it, or you have a dialogue with somebody, and then it gets clear.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that
That
makes sense. So this is all a different thing. And I was
yes.
talking to Michael Murphy, the founder of Esalen, and he's very
Mm.
interested in looking at that human potential
Yeah.
beyond what we know because he was doing some research. I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. And he used to be friends with Bill Walsh, and Bill Walsh was the coach of the 49ers when Joe Montana and all those guys were there. And he was talking about this running back, and this running back, I was it was third down and 7 or something like that, and the running back broke the play and got a huge gain. And so when they talked to him about it, they said, "Well, what caused you to change or call an audible, if you will?" He said, "Because I could see the field from above."
Mhm. Yeah.
So, so but the challenge is, I believe in athletics and even in life, people have these experiences, but who do you talk to about it without somebody saying, "Hey, I had this friend of mine. I was saying when I was learning how to do Tai Chi, I said, yeah, it feels like I have like roots in my leg, my feet going down into the earth." And
Mhm.
she said to me, "You can tell me that, but I don't think you should tell anybody else that because they think you're crazy."
Yeah.
But that
Right.
was my experience.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
we when the linear brain, I'm right-handed, it dominates. And if
Mhm.
+1 = 2, it's linear, it doesn't see the nonlinear. And it's only when we can be still and know, acquire that left brain, because I'm right-handed, the intuition and the big picture and the knowing, we get access to it.
Mhm.
Now, it's not like they're separate because sometimes it's just the linear brain just gives you the direction to say, let's look for this. But then once it does that, it's gotta calm down and quiet down and let the rest of us, that intuition, we get access to that space, that knowing, that intuition. Because intuition is something you can't really explain. It's just something you know.
Mhm.
And how do you get comfortable? And I'd say that's one of the most challenging things is embracing our greatness,
Yeah.
allowing ourselves that we have this ability to know stuff. And we have this being a masterpiece, we have this ability that whatever we hold in mind, we manifest.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that. The bird's eye view, the seeing from above. It reminded me. So I was when I was 8 years old, I had this experience where I was up. I saw my body fall over. It was in a Catholic church. I went to a, it was just part of the school that my parents had me in, and it was every month we go to mass, big cathedral next to the school. And so one day in April, I walked in and it was really warm, but nobody else was warm, right? I just would get hot in those places, and all of a sudden I started to see my body. We were all kneeling, and I'd see my body fall over, and I see my teacher and a student get me by the arms while I'm looking through the flicker of the ceiling fan on the top of the cathedral. And that was the moment they dragged me back into the back. And that's where I came back to my body and breathed. That was the moment when I was 8 that I knew I wasn't just my body. And it set me on this
Yes, yes,
journey of,
yes.
wow, if that's not me only, right? It is me. But if that's not me, then who am I? Am I soul? Am I spirit? So I journaled and percolated those questions from then until now. And that led me on this journey of like, we got to see what's beyond because there is
Mhm.
so much available. And I think some people they know that well, but even like the be still and know, it's like that for me has been a repository of greatness. And but I think back to earlier years when I was very depressed, then quiet was an environment that would grow and magnify the depression and the negative. When I found peace and I found wholeness, then quiet became a sanctuary. So I think for me, sound emitting broke through the blockages that helped bring me that awareness that I could have sound comfort me. So yeah, I feel like some people might their nervous systems can't handle the quiet until they find wholeness too, or until they're able to hear the positive voices come through. So do you feel like there's any resources or wisdom for you on times that you've maybe heard too much negative within yourself or from around, or what are the ways that people can
Yes.
find that?
Yeah, so when I wrote the book, The Mindful Athlete: Secrets to Pure Performance, I talk about the 5 superpowers and how you have to balance them. And
Mhm.
so sometimes if you have too much with, information, intellect, and if you have too much information and not enough faith, you become cynical.
Mhm.
If you have too much faith and not enough verification or grounding it in reality, direct experience, then you become Pollyanna-ish. And so the whole idea of just realizing that there's a lot we don't know, and it's really challenging to embrace um, our greatness because you can't really talk about it, and even if you talk about it, you're not doing justice. And so
Mhm.
unless you found somebody who can allow you to be who you are, then that's helpful. And so you remind me what the original question is because I kind of lost.
Yeah, there's your be still and know scripture reference is amazing. So for those people who need they when it gets quiet, they're
Oh yeah,
hard
yeah,
for them.
I got it. Now I
Yeah.
remember. So even Eric Fromm, when he talks about the art of loving, he talks about one reason why people don't want to concentrate is because they're not comfortable being with themselves.
Mhm.
So you have to have so you can be with yourself, but you have to have on. I like to talk about the story about the Cherokee grandfather, and he's telling his grandson that there's a ferocious battle going on inside of me between two wolves. One
Mm,
is with simplicity, one is fear, the other one is love. And then the grandson says, "Well, which one will win?" And the grandfather says, "The one that I feed."
mhm.
And so, if I have on the fear glasses and I'm by myself, just because I'm in a autonomic nervous system, my job is to look for danger when I'm in lack or survival mode or fear. And so I'm looking for the danger, not looking for the opportunities. And so when you talk about being alone, you got to have your love glasses on, the growth mindset, or enough faith in the universe and in yourself to realize, oh, I have all I need to succeed, and I'm looking at a roadblock as a stepping stone, not as a something that's keeping me locked in. So, Dr. Hawkins talks about attractor fields, certain attractor fields. And so the thing is, when you change the attractor field, then the options that are available to you are different. So we can kind of do it with the grinding 1 + 1 = 2, or if you just renew your mind or you align with the divine or align with the way things are, if you're focused on love, understanding, compassion, then that vibration allows you to be comfortable being alone, being with
Mhm.
yourself. And the Buddha has a sermon on the best way to be alone. So I remember when I first got in recovery, I don't know if I heard it or I think somebody told me the story about it. This priest You know, you being a Catholic church, he said, and I went in the room to be alone, and all my enemies were there. So, so that's telling you. So the main thing we want to do is we want to make our mind our best friend, not our biggest critic. Because all of the criticize us, all the authoritarian, all the authorities and whatnot, they're in our minds now, it's telling us things and whatnot. And what we have to do is we have to take ownership of it and realize that we get to choose what we focus on. We get to choose what voices we listen to. And so if we are in alignment with the Christ consciousness or the Buddha nature or just present moment awareness or just love, then that vibration is going to allow us to be able to see things and tolerate more discomfort. It's a huge thing. But people keep saying, well, it's not the situation, it's the mindset, it's the glasses you have on.
Hmm.
On the fair glasses, you're going to be in a fight, flight, free, and fawn. Been the a lot. If you're in growth mode or in love, then there's an openness and there's a question of, okay, what's the lesson?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I do this? Not can I do this, or how do I do this, or what's the lesson, and how is other people? Oh, I'm going to rely on scripture, or I'm going to be still and know and ask myself, because all the answers will come within, but sometimes they show up as messengers,
Yeah.
the three angels, and
Hmm.
they show up as messengers. So we have to be willing to be open to that. But it's a challenge because people think, oh, it's just doing something. No, it's about your consciousness, what vibration you're in that's going to determine whether it's going to be it's going to be something where you're at ease and you're just looking and you're exploring, or you're going to be in the fight, flight, freeze. And when you're in that reptilian brain, you can't be in. It's interesting. There's a guy named Robert Lifton. So one of the things I should share is over this last, I don't know, 41 and a half years of sobriety, I've averaged over a book a week.
Yeah.
So one of the books I read was The Biology of Belief, and
Yeah. Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lifton, and he said that on a cellular level, the cell is either in growth mode or survival mode. It can't be in both. So that's huge.
Yeah.
So a big part of what we call right effort or getting into the right frame or renewing your mind is to recognize, oh, I'm in survival mode. I'm focused on what could go wrong because in that reptilian brain, its job is to look for danger. So that's the reptilian brain. But how do I move into the growth brain or love or
Mhm.
seek to be able to? So you got to have some kind of faith or some kind of way of noticing, oh, I'm in survival mode. And then once you notice it with the mindfulness, then you can just ease in the growth mode. What do I want? So you go from what I don't want to what do I want? Or
Yeah.
or what is being offered to me? And so can I create space between stimulus and response? So in that space, I get the freedom and power to choose my
Hmm.
values, choose my goals,
Yeah.
instead of being a victim of circumstance.
Here's nihilism that goes right along with what you're saying. Well, be still and know is like Psalm 46, but in Colossians is seek and set your mind on what is above. That doesn't rhyme, but if you convert it to Greek, it's zeteo and phroneo on what is ano. Right, I threw in what is
Yeah.
in English, but it's seek
Yeah.
and set your mind on what is above. So if you set your mind on what is above, like on the light, on the sun, then you feel this permeation of the warmth and the radiance of the sun that dissolves. I used this way back in 2009, and I would put on my mind on the sun up there, the sun, and that heat would irradiate, dissolve all the negativities, because visualization was a big gateway for me to coming through a lot of that brokenness,
Yeah.
and it would dissolve all the negativities so that I wouldn't need to think my way through, because anybody that's stuck in flight knows we can't think our way through. We've got to shake our feathers like a bird does and shift into a different brainwave state so that we can somatically transcend those limitations that constrict us. So that Zeteo and Phroneo and what is a no? I mean, I don't even need to know the rest of the Greek there, even though I do. But it's like that that just dissolves some of that
Yeah.
negativity that doesn't need to be there.
Well, when I was in recovery, my best thinking kept me high and drunk.
Right.
So I had to
Yeah.
behave my way into proper thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's as simple as, well, if you don't drink or drug, you won't get drunk or high.
Right.
That's true. But then once you do it, then once you once you do it, then now the possibility of you being able to do it more and more, it's like the quantum Zeno effect. It's like quantum physics. Like you have all these waves of possibility, but if you keep saying, go to the go, there's a book called the Mind and Brain. I forget the guy's name is Jeffrey Schwartz, I think, but he talks about the quantum Zeno effect. People that have OCD is just really understanding that you become what you think about.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great secret. And so he was talking about people who have the tendency to wash their hands, wash their hands, wash their hands. So when they go into therapy and they relabel, they reattribute, they refocus um, what they're doing, relabel, reattribute, refocus, and revalue. So instead of you, so you actually disrupt that thinking and you say, okay, go to the garden. I want to go to the garden. And for me, rather than go to your house, okay, go to a meeting or go help somebody, whatever. And what happens is if you keep focusing on, because it's now this binary brain, what cells get activated and whatnot. So it's like, so if I say go to the garden, go to the garden, go to the garden, so they'll still be washing my hands, but at some point when I program myself to go to the garden, I'll just go to the garden.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we don't realize that what we think is directing us, and what we think our inner dialogue is a reflection of our mind. And so, if we can understand that and understand that, okay, so if I behave my way in the proper thinking, so now I program myself when I get hungry, angry, lonely, and tired to not just go and drink something or shoot something because I have a understanding of how I can reprogram myself and then but it's all about being in a higher level of consciousness or higher vibration. Because I would say at the vibration I'm at now, after all of these years, getting high or drunk are not options. But
Uh-huh.
that reptilian brain and that emotion, that lack, that's an option. And so they say we talk about improving conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out. It's another way, according to Dr. Hawkins, is to get to attract the field of love, peace, acceptance. But you got to get out of survival mode. In survival mode, you got no shot, none. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is you can struggle and do all that stuff, or just change your mind. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That
Yeah.
is also that's quantum physics. When you focus on something, you and the thing are interacting. You change the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have that growth mindset, not the fear mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's so much we don't know, and it's so fascinating when you really think about, as I like to say, we some bad mofos. The same. Oh, and if you want to, my definition of meditation is, there's a couple philosophers I like to refer to, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. They say, I got my mind on money, money on my mind. That's
Right.
meditation.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
meditate means to contemplate. To contemplate means to
Mm-hmm.
look at closely. So we have a dialogue going on inside and we're not aware of it. But once we become aware of it and we change it in alignment with who we say we are, then we start to understand that is when you can decide what thoughts you focus on and what thoughts you entertain. That's when you start becoming the master of your own fate. That's when you
Mm-hmm.
start to realize that those thoughts are things, and whatever you think is either helping or hurting whoever the person is you're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why prayer is so powerful, because you're creating a reality and you're thinking things. And so, yeah, I mean, I could go on, but I mean, this is a fascinating conversation, and I'm not able to really have this with a lot of people simply
Mm-hmm.
because they're not, they're probably, I don't know, they're just, it's not something they think about. But but from my experience and working with people in different domains and everything, it really is about what thoughts are going to allow me to be fully present and fully self-expressed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a place I'm going so many places as it goes as you're talking, and I couldn't help but go back to my time in Illinois, growing born and raised, but then I went to undergrad, and but I was in the rave culture, right? So this is going to raves with Run DMC. I was a flexor. I was a liquid dancer. I was, move like water. That's what people would say, is my body became like liquid.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there was a facilitation by different things like the drugs, the LSD and the marijuana at that time. I would lose myself to become the music. Now I know that I love your Georgism is you lose yourself to find yourself. And so I lost myself for a while there, but what I gained once I made it out alive through all those murky times, was I look back and I realized, well, I became the music, and I became collected and focused and so in tune with movement and dance that that was really what was the godsend. Was sound and dance were big unwrappers of my being to help me integrate. So coming through that era, it was like 2 decades ago that I came out of that and came into the land of living and began to pursue my, studies, molecular biology, chemistry, chiropractic, and then the more that I've done since then. And so I look back and I'm like, thank God I made it out alive. But I didn't just make it out alive. I now can look back and collect the victories that I gained to become tools and resources for how I navigate consciousness. But more than that, like, I'm going to bring this to something that you have done with so many people on so many levels. I've been able to facilitate exploration of consciousness in others because of those terrains that I explored. And I love you mentioned Hawkins, because his framework, it talks about certainty and how we develop as a practitioner, we develop a certain amount of certainty, not to be inflated, but so that we can be so sure of who we are in a moment that we can hold space for someone else to allow them to delve deep into those waters that may be murky, and we're there because we're at that, we're not stuck on a boat, on the surface of water, but we're on the surface of the water saying, I've been there before. You can go dive in there, and I'm going to be here to bring you up, so that when you come up and you start coming up through that water, seeing the light, you'll get to the oxygen, you'll breathe, and you'll be able to be aware that you didn't need to stay stuck on that sea floor. You could come up to the surface, and now so look through the consciousness of those layers of the shimmery water to see, I made it. And I now have whatever was fractured or compartmentalized can be cohered, unified, and made good in the light of consciousness and divine. So I feel like it's important to talk about this because, like you said, I don't go this deep with everybody. And you've gone places that I haven't gone. I want to mention one more thing, and then I have a really, I think I have a question for you that I'd love to explore. But let's get back to this tennis coach that I journeyed with back in, it was at least 13 years ago. And through him, he got such breakthrough that I ended up being the body worker for at least 200 tennis players, and pretty good, level. With him, he was one who understood all these things, but just like you've helped many people go where they couldn't go on their own, and he, master of his own trade and consciousness. But I had him on the table, I had him in the chair, and I was working with him, and I was going through his body, like helping him with his shoulders and his elbows. And I did use a lot of visualization to say, yeah, you're serving with your right arm all the time. Now visualize rewinding your serve. And you don't have to visualize it 1,000 times. Visualize it once and say, multiply that by 2,000. And you'll retroactively build these extensor muscles up in your mind to compensate for that. But there was a blockage though in his elbows, and we couldn't get at that fascia, the muscles. So all of a sudden I was quiet, like I am with people, and I'm still. And through those still waters, I saw a moment happen when he was 4, and I saw it was around a carousel, and it was spinning, and it was out of control. Let's just say, to summarize that all, I was able to bring up a few words that to him made sense. And he said, yeah, I can't believe that's coming through. You're seeing that. Well, he then started to get white. He saw things. He lost consciousness. He came back a few seconds later in my chair, and his elbow pain was gone forever. And it was wild because he needed somebody to facilitate this consciousness exploration with him. And I just held space. And what I want to, I mean, there's so much to say. So maybe I'll leave space, and then I have another question I want to ask you. But I know you've journeyed with many people in ways to where stories like that you just leave you marked. Is there anything that I've said that's left that, kind of brought up any stories or things or thoughts for you to say?
Yeah, it really is this idea of integrating, as Carl Jung would call the shadow,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
just getting clear about things and seeing things as they are, and it allows us to integrate that experience with things. And once you understand it, once you see it for what it is, and how it is manifesting in current reality, just by seeing it and shedding the light of awareness on it, then it dissipates. It's really that simple, but it really is integrating all of these parts of ourselves, all of our experiences. How do we make peace with them? How do you just say yes to them, embrace them, and ask, well, what's the lesson? Okay, maybe the lesson is, but once you understand it, then whatever attachment you had to that situation can be let go of, and then it dissolves. And that's
Mhm.
it's always about letting go. It's always about letting be. But the acceptance, I talk about it in terms of the four A's. Awareness, which is an awareness is like mirror mind, just seeing it.
Mhm.
It's not awareness is not it's part of it, but the acceptance of it, the willingness to tolerate the discomfort or to see it. And sometimes the acceptance is like going through the five stages of grief. Grief
Mhm.
is going
Mhm.
through uh, denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and then getting to acceptance. But it's not linear. They kind of have their own rhythm. But if I can be aware of something and accept the fact, like if he can accept the fact, oh, I did this, and at such and such time, whatever, and then the compassionate action, which is just to let it go, or just say, okay, it's okay for me. I say I had that. You embrace it. You say yes to it, and then there's ability for you to just integrate it into your experience, or not to have an attachment to it where it's keeping you stuck, where you actually get let go of it. And that's a lot of the disease or unease has to do with some stuff we haven't really accepted and integrated into our experience, and say, okay, I had that experience, but that's not who I am.
Mhm.
That's just the experience, but embracing it and then integrating it with our being. And that's the thing we don't talk about. I like to talk about the whole person, the body, the mind, the heart, the soul, with the
Mhm.
spirit. And that when they're all in alignment, or we have to develop those four aspects of being. And Nega Keishi said the spirit is the life, mind is the builder, and the physical is the result. So everything starts with the spirit. Well,
Mhm.
if the spirit is right, or you're in line with that, then everything else is going to be in alignment. But we have to understand that you can't tell somebody, in your case with the tennis, shut up and hit the ball.
Right.
Shut up and dribble.
Mhm.
That is, now you made them into a thing. This we
Mhm.
and Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey talks about this idea of a whole person paradigm, because if you leave out one aspect of the person, you're dealing with a thing, not with a person. And so
Mhm.
we have to be sensitive to the people's bodies, and we get the body part, the mind part, a little bit, and then the heart part, the social emotional, and then the spiritual part is being having purpose and meaning, and thinking about the highest good. See, we don't really talk about that much, and you can see people, they can have a ton of money, a ton of success, but there's no fulfillment, because they got the physical success, but they haven't figured out yet how, like the Titans of Industry that was on the History Channel, all those cats, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, uh, Morgan, they gave back. They okay had these institutions. How do we get back to it? And so
Mhm.
that's like the hierarchy of needs, where you have to leave a legacy, but you are thinking for the highest good, or doing something like that. And some people are cut off from their hearts, so they just boom, they can just get rid of stuff and not think about, okay, I just laid 5,000 people off, and I just got a bonus for that.
Yeah. So hard.
You,
Well.
you understand what I'm saying? And so
Mhm.
we do. What I did was, when I worked, you repress it, or you cut off parts of yourself. They call it.
Mhm.
This guy Robert Lifton wrote a book about that. How can you have some of these soldiers they're in a concentration camp and they take a baby and they smash the baby's head against the wall, then go home and play with their kid.
Yeah, it's so hard.
You have to be able to, so now you're not a whole person. You have
Mhm.
all those things, and that stuff is weighing on you. That's like a dam. That's like something being holding you from flowing.
That's the cognitive dissonance in that fractured state where you could somehow compromise, decency towards others or yeah, but I think going back to like that person or that mind is it is how is it possible for a mind like that to live in harmony? And therefore, how is it possible for someone like that to differ and prefer the goodness of others, really? Because that is so it's really there's so much there. I mean, we could dwell deep in that, and I think it brings me back almost to the surface before I ask you another question about this topic of intuition, because I look at intuition when I teach movements. I used to teach intuitive movement around many states and countries, and then now I teach more of my manual therapy system on how to help people heal. But I always round people up into a circle so we can hold hands, be in touch with one another, connect, and shed our identities as whatever healer we might be, so that we can put on that love towards one another and an understanding for one another. And I always would tell them, I say that I have a training coming up in Santa Barbara next month, but I say, like, intuition takes integrity, because if we can honor and respect ourselves and trust ourselves with others and with ourselves, then you realize in a moment that when you hear this notion of, yeah, remember that, or oh, I've heard you say this too when you're working with the Lakers, and that voice came up one day and that tells you, not to do something or that, or it's, you honor and respect the words that you get. You look deeper to make sure they're coming from a true source, but it's like, you hear the little whispers. And for me too, because my empathic, kind of kinesthetic empathic work means that if I feel my right kidney tense up, I know to look at somebody's right kidney, and because that might be where they're
Yeah,
experiencing pain,
yeah,
so it's tuning in, huh?
yeah. That's the mirror neurons, man.
Yep, that's
You
right.
know, so we're getting to the point where we can explain this stuff through science and whatnot on some level. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's it. It's like in therapy, when you're working with somebody, when they transform, you transform also because you're in relationship with them.
Hmm.
And that's the thing about if you want to learn something, teach it.
Yeah,
If you
but
want to keep something, give it away. So yes, so what you're saying is really powerful, and this idea of just being open because we're interacting, we're energetic, and so there's a lot of wisdom there if we're willing to say yes to it and
hmm,
open to it, but it's uncomfortable,
hmm,
especially when it doesn't fit our meaning map or what we think the way the universe works. Like this idea,
right.
okay, the brain is in your brain, and your mind is in your brain, and instead of saying no, your mind is not confined. That's very different. It's challenging for people because when I used to do visualization, I was doing it in a linear fashion. Like, okay, it's got to be connected to this.
Uh-huh.
The hip bone is connected to the leg bone and all that.
Right.
Instead of saying, yeah, that's just a linear, but the other part of it,
Uh-huh.
just a vibration. It's going beyond all of that, and it's just yeah. So it's very fascinating. I mean, just doing chiropractic and back 50 years ago, 51 years ago, man, people, they didn't even know what chiropractic was, and if you did it, that's weird, man. Why are you doing that? Even my work
Hmm.
I was referred to as the secret weapon because people didn't want to talk about this because they thought it was about fixing something instead of um, focusing on elite performance. They thought it was about fixing something instead of releasing something, which is
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah, oh, I gotta ask you about, growing up in Illinois, being a Jordan fan. I watched all those countless seasons and Untouchables and all the videos. And I mean, I grew up just an hour south of Chicago, and then seeing Phil Jackson, um, with the way he approached coaching. And then, of course, there's so much to say about that. And then, it was hard to see him leave and end up with the Lakers, because who knew that many years later I would move to very close to Los Angeles. But
Right.
seeing how you've journeyed with Phil, and some people might know this, anybody who's tuned into sports or mindfulness will know that. But for some people who are tuning in that might be not aware of your history with them. But I want to micro tunnel into a moment perhaps where, you know uh, in your journeys with the Bulls and the Lakers, but Phil Jackson, let's say specifically, because he's the one that brought you, right? He's the mind that brought you. He's the one that saw what he needed, what his team needed.
Right.
So I would imagine you and him have this kind of synced up consciousness, kind of awareness that, like, you were there to unlock the potential of these people positioned to play this significant role on this team to accomplish the set goals that they had. So what was, if you feel like you can share it, what was the conversation you had with Phil that, like, stands out to you as, like, when you knew, like, you were coming alongside a mission where you could align with?
Yeah, well, it had more to do at the time. This is 1993,
Yeah.
and this the summer, and he and I had a conversation about me coming into training camp, which is in October, and working with the team. And so it had a lot to do with his vision. They had just won
Mhm.
3 NBA championships, 2001, 2, and 3. And he wanted to help because he saw his team as his congregation, really. He prayed
Mm.
for them, wanted the best for them beyond basketball.
Yeah.
And he felt like, okay, I need to help them deal with the stress of success. Because people don't realize that when you're successful and you have all those people coming at you, now they want you to do all these interviews and they want you to do things, and you can lose yourself in the success. And so he wanted me to help them deal with the stress of success. Because people think if you're successful, there's no stress. Yeah, there's a lot of stress.
Hmm.
So we decided, and then so for me, I was working at the Center for Mindfulness. I was at UMass Medical Center in the Department of Preventive Behavioral Medicine. So we
Yeah.
had a stress reduction relaxation program. Now it's called mindfulness-based stress reduction. But I was doing work in the inner city and in a bunch of prisons, and so I went out there to help the team. But I went there to serve. I didn't. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to be helpful. And
Hmm.
so whatever he wanted me to do, we were in alignment, obviously, because he cared about his players as a whole person.
Hmm.
So I went there, and of course, when I got there, they were in full blown crisis.
Hmm.
And so now it wasn't a stress of success. It was like, okay, we're in crisis. How do we, what do we need to do? We're in crisis, and so that's when I did, I changed how they were looking at it by saying, okay, crisis has two meanings. One is danger, which we get, but it's opportunity. So let's focus on the opportunity. Yeah, we can
Hmm.
manage the danger. And so that took it to a whole other level. And then 18 months later, Michael came back and,
Yeah.
you know, we, he wasn't quite there. So in 95, to, we lost to Orlando, Shaq and Horace. Horace was one of my buddies. He
Yeah.
goes and he was there. And, so then they came back that summer. So that adversity actually propelled them to winning three more three-peats. And then in the 96, they won 72 games.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
lost 10. So I was there with it, but like, once again, it was like my job was just to ask about how can I help? So I had to forget myself and service to find myself or to find something. And so then we developed this thing, and then so that was 96, 97, 98, and then 99, Phil took off, and then 2000, 2001, 2002, we picked it up. And of course, because of the success he had, and because they knew him, and then when we went to LA, we had it pretty much, we had it down what we were going to do. So there was a 7-year period from 96 to 2002, where out of those 7 years we won 6 NBA championships.
Hmm. Yeah.
two different teams, and then obviously moving on, and then in 98, 99, and 90, 2009, 2010, they won two more. Against, I think, I forget, it was Houston, or I forget who we beat, or it might have been Orlando, then Boston. But and then I went with him when he was with the Knicks in 2014 to 2016. But it was we had developed this, what we would call one breath, one mind, just this sense of being able to help people be who they were. But it was an embracing of, like I said, the 4A's embracing of things. Like, we had a lot of adversity and whatnot, but the adversity just made us stronger.
Well, I had no idea. I was 13 in 93. And I remember these moments because we would gather around one of my best friends. We would watch it. My parents are from India. He was from Pakistan. But the Indian community that I hung out with at the time, like we would gather. And one of the few things that brought us together was watching the Bulls, because we'd play ping pong. That's what we did, right? Tennis, ping pong, watching the Bulls. And so it was a great unifying thing. But we always hear
So,
we'd always see
so
Phil
did they
Jackson.
bring the cricket to the state?
What's that now?
Did they bring the love of cricket to the States with them?
Oh yeah, they love cricket. In fact, one of my cousins was like the champion of his city, and we would play. But as it is, like even though we loved it, it wasn't well accepted,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
in
Well, yeah, it's the environment you're in. Yes.
yeah.
So I didn't mean to take it down that, but
Oh, it's
it's
good.
it's fascinating now that I think about it, and look at all the stuff, and just like right now, and it's amazing because a lot of people probably don't realize that I was Dr. J's roommate in college.
All right,
And now they have the soul of the game. They talk about the ABA, where some of my young guys are realizing what it was like back then. And I was in the middle of that. As a matter of fact, that's an Amazon thing going on, and I'm in that one. I'm in part two.
because the documentary is
Yeah, the
right.
documentary. But I was in the Last Dance. It's just that
Yeah.
they didn't use my part because they.
Okay.
I'm not judging, but I think they were focused on controversy, not so much on transformation.
I think they were. Oh man, that was
It
hard.
made sense, but we had some really good. It was a great interview. There was a lot of good stuff in the interview that didn't get captured. And then there was a guy, Andy Thompson, who was really doing all the filming when we were going through The Last Dance, and he wasn't involved in it. But there was a situation where MJ and I were in the training room, and
Uh-huh.
we had like a 45-minute conversation that was deep, that they captured. So they got so much stuff
Oh
that
yeah,
that
I
would
want to see that. That should have been
powerful.
out there.
But once again, but see, if you have on the glasses where you focus on
Yeah.
first, you want to go with the controversy, then all the stuff that doesn't fit there, it's not going to fit in. So it's fine. I mean, I was happy. I mean, some people were disappointed that I didn't show up, but I said no, I didn't need to be in that because we weren't focused on, and I was talking about transformation.
Right.
And
Right.
whether it gets shown or not, the thing is, I did my job. I shared what I had, and what they do with it, I don't have control over. Just
Yeah.
like my athletes, when they play well and you still lose or whatever, you don't have control over what happens. You only have control over what you bring and what you share. That's it. That's
Mhm.
you can do, and so it's fine. But it's there, and you can still see me in some of the clips walking with them or whatnot. But this one, I haven't seen this, the Soul of the Game. I haven't seen that yet, but MJ, and I mean, Doc and I, and
Mhm.
so I'm just happy because people never really saw the real Julius Erving
Mm.
in the NBA. It was a little bit, but it was a different game. But there in the AVA, man, it was wide open, man, and it was like there's so much talent that was there. Uh, And yeah, they only allow four teams, but it's funny because they only allow four teams, and one team, I think it was the Kentucky Colonels or whatever. But the brothers that own that team, they got some kind of revenue sharing, and they've been revenue sharing ever since. And then I think recently, I'm just paraphrasing, that with the new media deals and whatnot, I guess the media companies told the NBA they had to settle with these brothers, so they bought, they settled for them, but those guys probably took in at least $1 billion just from having shared rights with
Wow.
the content and whatnot. So it's fascinating back then because they only had 10 or 12 teams and they just couldn't grow. But it was very interesting. So if people want to listen to that, watch that thing. That would be great. And I don't even
Yeah.
know I came across whatever, but
Yeah.
telling me because it's more conceptual than the Last Dance because it talks about the times and the culture and everything is so it's very different. Well,
And
this is what I hear.
what's that one called?
It's called The Soul of the Game.
The soul of the game. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty remarkable how you've journeyed all the way back from Dr. J being roommates to like the amount of I'm sure moments that you've been in, but I love your humility of like it's you don't know until you get there what you'll do because you are wanting to be fully present to be there, and it could be with anybody that you're with. It's like you are there as a steady source to help reflect and be a resource.
Yeah, this is create a space for people to find themselves. That's pretty much what I do. I help people unlock, embrace the greatness, find the flow, discover success. But it's really more about what I'm really doing is turning them in within, and like
Hmm.
leading them back to themselves and saying, you have everything you need to succeed, and I'm going to help you develop that quality of being yourself, knowing yourself so you can be yourself, so you can express yourself, so you can share yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty much it, and by doing that, I forget myself in service, and I find myself.
I love that. Well, I'm going to ask you the question. It's from The Alchemist. Paulo Coelho wrote this book. It's one of my favorite. I just carry it with
Mine
me,
too.
and
Mine
it's the so many moments to pick on. But I like that moment is a kind of a portal or an event horizon where the old king, mystical king Melchizedek on the bench is talking to Santiago, the protagonist, the shepherd. He's saying to the shepherd who's in pursuit of his dream, and some people you've read the book, this all, and some don't know. He goes to Tangier and he polishes glass and he learns about entrepreneurialism and how to increase sales. For me, I get so many keys from this book. But I really love the poignance of this one phrase that he says to Santiago. He says, the universe conspires in your favor when you
Yeah.
are in pursuit of your personal legend.
Yes. Yeah.
So, where does that take you? But I'd love to know your personal legend. What are you put on this planet to do? What is your purpose, your dream?
Yes.
And then I'll
So,
have part two.
yeah, so I don't know exactly when it was, but, it's 2026 now. This was around 16, 15, maybe even 17 years ago. I was doing a lot of stuff with Landmark Education.
Mhm.
Which used to be S, now it's the Landmark Forum, and I was doing a workshop in there, and the name of the workshop was "Living Life Fully and Creatively," and so
Mm,
we developed a charter. So a charter was so the charter, my charter that I developed at that time that I've been guided by is I'm here to release the divine spark in each and every human being.
mm,
Values that are at the heart of who I am are love, truth, curiosity, wisdom, integrity, selfless service, courage, compassion. That for
mhm,
which I can be counted on for is to be loving with a warrior spirit, with a serving and compassionate heart, pursuing excellence and wisdom with grace and ease. And then I just added for the highest good.
mm.
Just increased it to that.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
But that's the game I'm playing. And so that's my standard.
Mhm.
Standard. So I can be loving, but I'm gonna bring that tenacity, that
Yeah.
mentality. I'm gonna be serving, but it's gonna be about compassion and
Mhm.
pursuing excellence and wisdom with grace and ease, which for a long time it wasn't. I was doing that warrior stuff, so I have grace and ease, and then for the highest good. So while you're doing this, why you and that was the thing when I was working when I started working with the bulls, it was purity. I wasn't doing it. I was making a living at at the medical center. It was just something that I thought I could serve and help.
Yeah.
Just like in 2023, 24, when I went to Canada and was working with the Edmonton Oilers, it was the same thing. It was like, okay,
Mhm.
I was trying to help them win a Stanley Cup, but I also saw it as a possibility of transforming the whole NHL, just bringing a certain quality of a whole person paradigm. And
Mm.
this idea of, yeah, the development, you want elite performance, you want to be able to handle stress, but you want to do it in terms of developing your whole being, your body, your mind, your heart, and soul for the highest good, not just for And so I feel like I had a tremendous experience with them. Didn't win a Stanley Cup, but I felt like we transformed millions of lives. First team to come back down 0-3 in 81 years, and we came this close to being able to win. But you can see the whole country of Canada was galvanized. You had people in Edmonton and showing up at games, and they were happy. And even though they lost, they were disappointed. But the experience, you can't see. A lot of times we get focused on the loss, but I feel like we didn't win. Me personally, and of course I'm not a player, but I felt like we transformed lives, and that's worth more than any Stanley Cup in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, a Stanley Cup is great. You can win it, and obviously, I can't speak for the players because I know they want to win it. But
Yeah.
to me, a winner is when you can walk away and say you did all you could, and you just didn't have control over the outcome. But in the meantime, you gave people a lot of hope
Mm. Yeah.
and connection. But to me that's the thing. And of course, it's easy for me. I got I've been to like 10 or 11 finals, so I'm just when I look at my life, it's hard not to be grateful. If I would have died, just
Uh-huh.
be really satisfied because I feel like I was able to be who I am and to help as many as I can,
Mm-hmm.
not just to survive but to thrive.
And I'd love to ask the part two of this question because especially uh, so much certainty, but also like conviction in your personal legend. So thank you for sharing that. Um, how do this kind of legend, the charter that came out of that time, and that takes you up to today, and as you forge ahead in the future, you know, uh, what is your personal legend in terms of this second part, the key on a map that shows you how far along the path you are, and just kind of looking out for landmarks and things like that? Or what are the ways that you keep tuned in? You could speak about practices or even values. How do you stay
Yeah,
aligned
yeah.
with
Well, I
that?
still well, once again, it's my daily practice. For me, is to stay in line with the divine. That's prayer,
Yeah.
meditation, study. But it really can come down to creative service,
Mm, okay.
creativity, and service. It's this idea that what I that chart is maybe a lifetime of lifetimes. It's not going to be It's not gonna be one and done, or I've done this. No,
Mhm.
it's like, each day I'm getting there. So I like this definition of success that I got from Earl Nightingale in his book, The Strangest Secret, which I told you the strangest secret is we become what we think about, is, success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal or goal. So
Mm,
each day, your success, okay, I might I feel like on this podcast, I got better today.
mhm,
That's the thing. Even if I were to muck it up or whatever, I still got opportunity to learn from it. But it's always this idea, just a little bit better each day, a little bit better each day. When I know better, I do better, and just yeah, just it's a path. It's mastery. And I like to say this: if you master the fundamentals, you will become a master.
mm, mhm. Yeah,
So the fundamentals are just showing up and expressing yourself honestly and fully and authentically.
it's golden. Yeah. Uh, I have a s- question that is meant to kind of even get more at some of this idea of tapping into this higher source. And so if you could pan out and you could go up to, let's say, go up to that bird's eye view of looking down at planet Earth. Maybe you're in on the moon, maybe you're just on a spaceship, and you look down and you see George doing what he does daily, yourself. And then you see the people around you in those concentric circles, your loved ones. And then you kind of let's blur time too. Then you look and you see, maybe it's like, oh yeah, over to the left, you see all the people you've been with, all the things you've done, all the people you've helped. And then whatever you see of the future in the next decades to come, and you see, to kind of speak from that, like, how would you feel Like, what would give you the most fulfillment? And when you look ahead and you see other places or people or things, is there anything that really, like, you've seen crystal clear for you, knowing how much you've done? And do you have any things that you've seen ahead in the future that you'll do, people you'll be with that you wanna help or anything like that? And you don't have to share details, but if you want
Yeah,
to, you
yeah,
can.
yeah. So it's interesting. I don't know. I just know wherever I go, I want to serve. I want to help people, embrace their greatness, find the flow, discover success.
Mhm.
The rest of us. Oh yeah, it's just pretty. The charter is there. It's like I don't know, but I do know. I wanna reach more people.
Mhm.
People to
Yeah.
have access to this process. So for a long time, I worked with the elite of the elite, and they have a certain income level and status level. But I want everybody. I want people who, especially like right now, if I think about it, living in America, one of the things I think everybody needs it, but I think especially you talked about integrity. Integrity is
Mhm.
not morality play. It's more about workability.
Yeah.
And so morality is about workability. So being able to have integrity means it's like if you wouldn't go over a bridge if it wasn't didn't have integrity because
Mhm.
collapse. So it's really more about I feel like right now there's a lot of people that have a lot of money and that are not whole people in the sense of understanding that okay, maybe I need to give back. I don't see too much. I did some, but I don't see too much of that. But what gets in the way of them realizing that it is like in like they say in the Bible, whatever the Good Samaritan is about helping. There's enough for everybody, but instead of making this us and them, and not realizing that or maybe people, yeah, just to get to a place where they want to give back and they want to help people instead of just take, but they want to help and they see that everybody is a divine spark or a child of God or whatever. How do we get back to that? Now, some people will say that sounds Pollyanna-ish, but it's more about how yeah how do we not lose our fact that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but also that helping rise all boats. I mean,
Mhm.
the thing to me is each person has to do that. I can't tell somebody what to do, but I feel like there's more acts of kindness and realizing because what happens every once in a while we get beyond that veil of separateness, and you can see it 9/11, the people running into the building here in Boston or Massachusetts where people are running towards the during the marathon bombing, they're running towards the explosions, not away from it. And even in California, they had the fires, you had people running in trying to help people.
Mhm.
We get beyond the illusion of separateness and we realize I and the other are one.
Mhm.
That would be profound. And even if we could just because we seem to get through that, but then we go back to
Mhm.
getting in our sides or our position and not realizing that it's better together and that we have to see each other the way we want to be seen. Maybe that's the problem because maybe we don't want to be seen as
Mhm.
masterpieces.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of work to be done in terms of people focusing on how they can help others. And some people help others to the point that they forget themselves. So it has to be that balance of, I like that one of my Georgisms is you got to be selfish to be selfless.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you go in a plane, that's the metaphor. Put your mask on so you're there to help others. But you got to
Yeah.
take care of you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
So I answer your question, but part of it is open
mhm.
ended. But right now, how I see it and what I'm feeling about it is about we got to get beyond the illusion of separateness and realize
Mhm.
the other are one, I and the Father are one. If you want to say it that way, if you want to, if you're being loving and you're being peaceful and you're being compassionate and you're being wise, then you are in the divine alignment.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. It's, I was reminded of one other, um, w when I so, and what I'm doing now, teaching other healers to be able to help more people. I love helping babies to moms, and then also consulting to neuroacoustic companies. It's about sound and how it can get the keys that I've accessed out to more people to reach way more people than I could with in
Yeah.
office work. So I had this, it's almost 16 years ago. I saw these words: psychoneuroimmunomusicology.
Oh, musicology. Oh,
Yeah, I saw that word. I saw that phrase because I was studying psychoneuroimmunology. Oh, we had Bruce Lipton speak at our first day of chiropractic college, and delving into these concepts, and I'm like, well, I'm fascinated. But I know with my history in sound and music, so now I'm delving into acoustic, involved with acoustic neurobiology. But I saw the words psychoneuroimmunomusicology as a field that I would help pioneer.
oh, I didn't even know it existed
It
because that's
doesn't. It doesn't. No, I'm part of right now. I'm part of helping synthesize it. It's taking the being on the shoulders of giants, of those who have created psychoneuroimmunology as a framework of understanding. I've heard you reference it,
yeah.
but bringing in this other field that we explore. And but even though that's what I'm on the path towards doing, I saw this one simple phrase on a scroll as I was in this place of stillness, and the scroll in heaven, I saw it, and it said, "You will sing joy over India." That one simple
Wow.
phrase has boomed within my mind for since 2011, when I saw that meditating by the pool in the sun, and I saw that word, I saw that phrase. And my heritage comes from India. There's about 1.7 billion people living in India. But I've heard, the interesting thing is my name, Neil, it actually means 10 billion. That's a number in India.
So you're Neele?
L,
Yeah,
two E's.
two
Two
E.
E's. That word means sky blue. Like if you look up and you see the color of
Yeah.
the sky, that's a color. So if you want to say what color the sky is, you say it's Neil in India.
Oh,
But the other word in the ancient Indian numbering system, I don't know. My parents gave me this name, right? But I was like, why did they give me the name? It means 10 billion. So I know I've heard, I think on Lewis Holmes' podcast, you said you want to reach more people, and that obviously isn't reaching the select few. That's reaching the mass conscious people. You say it's like you said a billion, and I said, you know what? I love that because my goal is to sing joy over India. So that's at least 1.7 billion people. I think it's in 2050 they're estimated to get up to 2 billion. But whatever it is, I know
right.
that reaching more people is reaching ourselves. Collective consciousness is oneness.
That is, yes. So that's definitely yeah, it's interesting you say that because yeah, I just said 1 billion, but I'm not it's not a limit.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
okay, it's just a target, but I'll be if you hundredfold that or if you
Uh-huh.
can that's still something, right?
Right, right.
So so it's really yeah, again it is really kind of figuring that out, but realizing yeah yeah. So I mean that's to me is yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. There's part of me feels like a lot of the only trickle down theory I believe in is when you get the ownership and you get the people with the power that are modeling it, model, trust, and inspiring, and then it trickles down to everybody else. Because unfortunately, people are looking at the leaders, and the leaders are not leading in the sense of realizing that they are impacting how other people are seeing things. And so, yeah, so I think that, my job is to write books, get out there, talk about it, maybe help the helpers. Maybe I'm more of an impact if I help the healers, help everybody instead of working with individuals that maybe working with people who can live and, will reach thousands of people instead of 100 people or 10 people.
Mhm.
And that thousand will ripple out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But yeah, it's just do what you know to do, and the next step will be given to you. It's that simple. Even though I have the mountain in mind, but it's still right now. It's the only time we have.
I love that. And I love how so many people can go to your website, and I know you could follow you on Instagram. We'll have it all in the show notes, of course.
Yeah,
Not only do you speak in on a lot of these platforms and speaking engagements, but I know you work with people too, and you have different ways people can work with you on helping them. And so, it's just sounds like you really, of course, care and you serve in so many
Yes,
ways.
yes, yes. Well, I'm an empath, so I feel people's pain. I feel that stuff, and when I was younger, I didn't know what to do with it. But
Mhm.
since I've gotten into recovery and whatnot, I know that I can use it to help people instead of using it to feel devastated and feel like there's no hope.
Yeah.
Realize that, oh, okay, so this sensitivity is not is how I use it. Can I use it for the greatest good?
Mm.
For the greatest good and express it in a way that's honestly uh an expression of me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're coming to, I know we set up our framework of time. I want to honor your time. But I feel like, yeah, getting into we broached, topics like the empathic realm. And so I'd love to, I'll have to reach out. I'd love to have deeper dives on a couple things with you at some point coming up. But I really appreciate what you shared. How can people find you? What's the best way people can
Yeah,
kind of
they can
get?
go to my website, georgemumford.com. And if they want to interact and try to reach out, there's the website. Then they can connect at georgemumford.com if they want to, if they're interested in doing work or whatever. But yeah, and I've been around a long time. Some people refer to me as the OG,
Hmm.
not the old gangster, but the old guy.
Okay, right, right.
But, if you go on YouTube and or well, not just YouTube, but Google or whatnot. But yeah, so I actually have, so I actually have a book, The Mindful Athlete, the 10-year anniversary of
Mm,
paperback coming
okay,
out July 7th.
that's exciting.
And what I've done is I've upgraded, the lessons of the last 10 years, but also I put specific practices in and to it so people can actually practice the five superpowers and ways. And then there's an OR code, so they can get downloads of meditation, guided meditation, and stuff like that. But it's really more about trying to build on that because it's a powerful book. It's funny. It took one of my mentors and friends to tell me. He said, "Dude, man, you don't understand. This book is the first book that really brought the contemplative practices in a comprehensive way to competition, to
Mhm.
performance." And I said, "Oh yeah, I wasn't thinking that because in my mind, to be honest with you, man, I was just serving. I wasn't looking at okay what this meant. It's like, oh, I got a chance to share this with people. That was
Mhm.
I was looking at it, and then yeah, it's a classic book, and I can't tell you how many people write out to me and say how it's transformed their lives and how it's helped them. But that was my intention. It's very intentional. I wanted it to be a book like a physician's desk reference, and people could go to
Uh-huh.
mindfulness, whatever, and help get you unstuck. And then I
Yeah.
brought quote unlocked because I think people still get hung up on it's the mindful athlete secret to pure performance. And so the new one is going to be a little bit different. The title we put we wrote two words to it: the mindful athlete secret to pure performance for everyone.
For everyone. I love that because it is. Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
good.
for everyone, even though I say that, people don't understand that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's about no, and then when you really think about it, I was thinking about it coming when I wrote the book, I was coming from this idea of, okay, my basic dilemma when I got in recovery was a lack of power. But there is one that has all power, man, you find them now. So I talk about the superpowers, and the
Mhm.
superpowers in this book is helping you create your own power plan.
Mhm.
You have the power to do what you want to do.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's for everybody.
That's for everybody. That's for
Everybody.
yes.
That's golden. And Quick Hitters, is that app still,
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's quick hitters. We're gonna do a lot more stuff with youth. So we have we have it's called playing the inside game. There's a lot of stuff out there we're trying to do. I'm doing
Mhm.
stuff for entrepreneurs, but right now, and I really want to really get kids, young kids before they get radicalized or tribalized or gangified. I just want them to
Yeah.
be able to understand because if we can get them to a certain level when they're younger, then not only will they thrive, but they will level up the playing field. And so,
Mhm.
especially people who don't have access, because we tend to focus on the quarterbacks and
Mhm.
and the particular, in soccer, it'd be the attack people and whatnot. We don't really realize that if we treat everybody like they were masterpieces or they were great, we have a lot more elite performers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. We were all made amazingly. And so
Yeah.
therefore
So
we
that's
have that.
that's my thing. So so Michael used to be funny. He used to say, "Yeah, Phil has this equal opportunity office." You know, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, so we want to play. So obviously, even if you do that, there's going to be the elite. The elite aren't going to change, but we can have more people that are vibrating and operating
Mhm.
at a higher level, which to me is going to raise all boats.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, so one size doesn't fit all, but if we can create a space for everyone to be great, or everyone to have the opportunity to be great, then that to me is about opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah. And well, I got to thank Tim Anderson for being the one who, kind of connected me with you and your team, because the original Strength podcast that you were on, I was on that podcast too. And I love how he talks about, we were, love our design, it's movement. He talks about movement with his strength and fitness experience, but he really gets back to that essence of how we were made. And he's like, we were made with a design. And so
Yes.
to love ourselves and to love movement is all about getting back to understanding our design. And I think I see that in your words so much too, is like,
Yeah,
you
I've gotten out of my Tai Chi and my, that whole type of practice. I haven't been doing as much as I used to. So I want to get back to my roots, get back to the foundation, get back to connecting to Mother Earth.
yeah. Well, then I got to get you
Yeah,
here.
we
I got
gotta
to go
talk, man,
there.
'cause
Right.
I think there's some, what you do can help some folks, and I want to kind of do a little networking with you and whatnot, and see how I can help you and how I can connect you with people that could really use what you offer.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, I'm very thrilled and excited that we could have this conversation and hang on here after we conclude, but I want to make sure everybody gets this salient kind of conclusion to what we're saying. If you have any words you want to share that you haven't shared, please do. And I
Yeah,
just want to encourage people just to,
yeah.
like, of course, take in what George is about to say here as we
Yeah.
come close.
When so I was on, you talked about 2 podcasts I was on, the School of Greatness and Tim Ferriss, and there was at least another one. And most of these podcasts, they ask you 3 questions that what do you know for sure, whatever. And I was reflecting on the podcast, and I gave the same answer 3 times, and I was at this summit, and I had a 90,000 ways to present, and it was all this stuff. And then I just said, okay, what I hope I'm doing in my practice is keeping things simple, accessible, and practical. And so there's 3 things that I want to talk about, and hopefully I won't forget them. Uh, it's only time you have is now.
Hmm.
The only one you could be is you. And I might have jumped to and the third thing is all you need is love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So those are guides. So if you're in the now and you're being authentically yourself, and if you're being loving, you're probably gonna be okay no matter what.
hmm Yeah. That's good words. Good words.
Yeah. And so
Mm.
I appreciate you, man. This was fun, man.
I had a blast, and yeah, I want anybody who's replay to what we said, replay to what George said, and hit up these moments again, because just like he said, if he's read his own book, I've read some books countless times, and every time I read it, I see something new or I am someone new. Therefore, you get something more out of it, and share this with someone that needs hope, as George mentioned, inspiration. They want to know the anatomy of intuition, whatever it is, their life purpose. Just share this with at least one person or a group that would benefit from this. And I reach out to us with how this hits you, what you like, what you love, and hey, just what you want to know more about. So, um, all right. Well, thanks for being on the Compromise to Alchemize podcast, George. I'd love to have you on again. Let's hang out in here for a
Sure.
minute. I'll talk to you after, and then I
Yeah.
can't wait
Okay.
to
Sure.
see what people think.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it might make sense when the book comes out in July that we maybe do something a deep dive.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, and my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day.
This is major.